Hello and welcome to another episode of the 162nd Photography Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about personal projects. So what is a personal project in photography? It's something that a photographer may do just for the fun of it. They want to put together a series of images. It might be they're a professional photographer and they're doing photography on something they love in a style that they love rather than doing it for sale or for a client. So quite often a professional photographer will do a personal project where there's no money involved. It's just for them. Of course, anyone can do a personal project. There just has to be a theme to the project. The personal element doesn't matter too much. So it just has to be a series of images that have a theme. I don't think one image really would count as a personal project. It has to be a collection of images. So why do them? To challenge yourself, to keep things fresh and to keep your photography moving forward and improving. I did one on macro photography and it was a complete failure. I aimed to publish a macro photography image every day for a week and it didn't happen. I think I published one and then unfortunately I became ill. I had a really bad cold, maybe it was flu, it's probably just a cold, but it meant for that week I published one image and one image only. And I felt quite let down by that. But hopefully my failure will help you to do better personal projects. So why did I fail? Well, maybe I was too ambitious doing one every day. Certainly, I would build up a buffer of images. Let's say you start on a Monday and you aim to do 10 images. Well, don't start on a Monday. Start taking your images on a Monday and start publishing them on a Thursday. So take an image Monday, take an image Tuesday, take an image Wednesday. And then when you go to take Thursday's image, you've got 4 in the bank that you can pick from. So if you can't get out and about or do an image on Friday, you've still got some backups there. So start to build up a buffer of images and then start to publish a little bit later. And of course, if you build up a buffer of images, you're more likely to pick some real winners than feel you need to publish the one you've got at the moment. Plan it out. You do need to put some thought into it. So you need to think about when you do your personal project, how you're going to publish your images, what your title is, what the theme is, things like that. So I'm really looking to do another personal photography project. And immediately I thought I'd like to do 10 tiny planets because I liked the alliteration of 10 tiny planets. So that means I've got to do 10 tiny planet images. So I need to think about that. Am I going to do 10? The only reason I picked 10 is because of the alliteration. Well, would it work with 3? 3 tiny planets. It doesn't sound as good as 10, but it would certainly be easier to manage. Am I going to publish all the images at once or am I going to do one a day? Now, doing one a day is quite difficult for me because I have quite a full-on full-time job. I do a podcast and I have a YouTube channel as well. So I'm always making things and actually I'm finding quite recently I'm not having as much time for photography as I would like due to other commitments. So let's think about this 10 tiny planets and let's think about making it more realistic. So how can I make it more realistic? I need to think about when I can go out and shoot my images. So I can only do that at lunchtime because we're now in October and it's now starting to get dark after work. So by the time I get home, it's dark. I can't really do a tiny planet image indoors. Has to be tiny planets are an outdoor thing really, so that limits me to lunchtime. So I've got, after I've had my lunch and other things, I've probably got about 40 minutes, maybe half an hour to get a tiny planet. The beauty of tiny planets is you always aim to take something everyday and mundane and change it so that it's a unique thing. So one thing I thought of was taking a tiny planet of my car with me inside it in a car park. Well, that's really easy to achieve. I can do that, no problem. That's not going to be a difficult thing to do. So I've got to find a way to do it. So I can't go to the Bahamas to do my tiny planet. I can't go to London. I can't go here, there and everywhere. I've got 30 minutes to get at least one image done. I might get more, who knows? Now we need to think about workflow. With tiny planets, I can only actually take a JPEG image. So I've got a 360 camera. I've talked about before, I use it for BTS mainly, but I can achieve my tiny planets in it. I've talked about a time constraint. I'm going to be shooting in JPEG. That's all I can shoot in with my 360 camera. That means I can edit it on my phone. That means I can quite easily get it into Instagram. I don't need to go through the computer. I don't need to do any Lightroom adjustments. Lightroom's so powerful and you can do so much that probably when the image is okay, you might over-edit it or spend a lot more time getting it just right when you might get it 95% right when you edit it in Lightroom. But actually, if you published at 50% right, who's going to notice? particularly for something like a tiny planet. I don't know that anyone would. So I can streamline by editing on my mobile. So I can probably capture an image and I can probably edit it within that 30 minutes. So I'm going to build in a buffer. I could do a week's worth. Would 7 tiny planets work? I still think 10 is worth going for. 10 tiny planets does have that good alliteration. 3 does have the alliteration but does seem too small. Am I going to get anyone to critique my images? That's another thing to think about. There's no point taking images and doing a personal project unless you display them. Now, you might think display them in a gallery. Yes, put them up on your wall, publish a book. But the key thing is you're publishing them for you and other people to see. So if you're publishing them, you need to think about how you're going to publish them, where you're going to publish them. And you need to think about critique. You need to put your best images out. And for a personal project, it's probably quite good to get other people's opinions on your images. The opinion that matters the most is yours. If you like it, do it. If you're happy with it, do it. I have this image that's in my bathroom that my wife hates. And part of the reason I just took this image and I put it up on the wall. Part of the reason I put it up on the wall was that she doesn't like it. And the other half of the reason is that I do like it. So I was adamant it was going up on the wall, and it's gone up in the downstairs toilet, and it's good because I like it and she doesn't like it, and that's all that matters, that I like it. So where are you going to publish it and how are you going to get critique? It's worth seeking critique from people. There's no point asking people who are just going to be negative. Put anything on. You're going to get someone who just makes a very snap judgment, and I've seen that in my YouTube videos, in doing podcasting. People forget someone's put effort into something and they just make a snap judgment. They just write down the first thing that comes into their heads without a thought as to really is that a fair thing to write that's going to be there forever? Is your comment fair? People don't think. Ignore them. If they can't be bothered to think, don't think about what they've said. Just ignore them. But do seek critique from people who are going to help you out. You might have some friends who are photographers. See what they say. Just give them a link to your work and see what they say. Do they think you can improve their image? Do they like it? Maybe, as I've said before, building up that buffer, get some critique before you start publishing so that your best images go out. Make sure whoever you're asking is fair. And we all might ask our family, and our family might be good people to ask, but are they going to say if it's bad? While criticism should be constructive, it does need to be balanced as well, and it does need to be fair. So that's something worth remembering. I know there are some people out there who have a commute to work where they do a lot of walking. That's a great opportunity to get some photography done and build that into your day. And once you start doing that, you're going to get better at spotting moments. You're going to get better at being a quick photographer and doing things in 15 minutes. After your personal project, really think about what have you learned from your project? Do you want to do another one? And how would you do it differently? I suppose what I'm saying is be reflective and evaluate the outcome of your personal project. The last bit of advice I would say is be realistic. Never set yourself up to fail. It's a fun thing, so why give yourself too much to do? Why give yourself deadlines that are too tight? Why stress yourself out? Don't. It's a personal project. Enjoy it. So some things I'm thinking of for a personal project are a few time lapses as a personal project, and link them together somehow through a theme, maybe nighttime or something, nighttime in the city. I see personal projects where people are doing a series of portraits. And I went on holiday, a long time ago, and I stopped in this hotel. There was a book someone had printed using Blurb, and it was their personal project, and it was all about the village we were staying in. It was just photographs of the village we were staying in Scotland. And it was really good. And they just self-published it, put it in a book, and I think either left it in the hotel or put it in their local community. I couldn't tell, or maybe they were the hotel owner. But I did enjoy just looking at the images from that. So I'm going to be doing a personal project. I'm going to hopefully report back on it in a week or two, and I'm hopefully going to be able to share it with the listeners of this podcast. But let me know, have you done a personal project? Are you interested in a personal project, or does it not interest you in the slightest? Do let me know. Don't forget you can check me out on Twitter, and the Twitter link will be in the show description. And don't forget you can support this podcast on Patreon, because even just driving around to different places in the city I work in at lunchtime, things do start to add up. Hosting adds up. So it's always good if you wanted to support the podcast, that would be greatly appreciated. So I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to crack on with my personal photography project. Goodbye.